we invite our Dharma teachers and everyone else to be seated. So dear community, let's listen to 3 sounds of the bell as we come back to our breathing. Dear respected Thầy, dear Venerable Dharma teachers, dear community, and this morning we have an opportunity to be present with our 2 Dharma teachers in this retreat. And in this session we have a question and answer session. So I know that in the beginning of this retreat, we invited you to write your questions down, and maybe your questions were written in Vietnamese and as well as English. And so yesterday we had the chance to have a question and answer with Thầy Pháp in Vietnamese, and so today we have another session of question and answer in English. And we know that many of your questions, you've written quite a lot for the Dharma teachers to answer, but we will see how much can they answer. If they answer all of it, that's wonderful. But if there's still a lot left over, then we'll continue for our next retreat. And as well, we'll also give some time for those who have some live questions. So from time to time, we'll alternate on the written question and as well on the live question. So for those who are present here today, if you have a question, you can also maybe signal us or raise your hand so that monastic brothers can bring you the microphone, and we'll give you the opportunity and the space to ask your question live towards our 2 Dharma teachers. And so to begin, we'd like to invite our 2 Dharma teachers to start off by answering the written questions, and we'll go from there. So I invite Bhante Kovida, Thầy Pháp to share their insights and to also answer the questions in today's session. Thank you, dear Venerable Dharma teachers.
Okay. How to practice self-compassion. How to slow down overthinking. Too much thinking. Well, maybe the second question doesn't need an answer now, right? I'm sure you know how to slow your thinking down. I remember there was another question here about thinking too much. And if you can't focus on the breath, as I mentioned before, do the moving meditation using hand movements. And if you don't remember, the video is there. Because when you focus on the hands moving and touching the body, not only it brings you immediately into the present moment, but you can focus easily and calm the mind. And at the same time, when you're doing the hand movements, the mindful hand movements, you observe thoughts arising in the mind and you let them go. It's a training of the mind. And you let go of those thoughts by simply coming back to the awareness of the hand movements and the hands touching the body. And of course, it gets easier and easier. And you find eventually thinking will stop by itself. Thinking will stop by itself. And there's a very useful technique called the mental noting. You know, because the thoughts and images tend to create many stories and scenarios. And some of those stories involve, little dramas, worries, fear, anxiety, and so on. And when we are not mindful, these mind-created stories and mini-dramas and scenarios, they seem very real. Right? They seem very real. But when we apply mindfulness, the mental noting can be very useful. And you just say mentally, it's only thinking. Only thinking. And then you come back to present moment, whether it's the breath or the hand movements. Or if you're doing mindful walking, you come back to the feet moving and stepping. So in this way, you get out of the stories and mini-dramas. You get out of the contents of those stories, and you realize it's just thinking. It's only thinking, it's not reality. And as we know from experience, thinking images are just impermanent mental objects, mental formations. Only thinking. It's a very useful technique, and I've used this myself. How to practice self-compassion. This is a very important question. Because as you know, we're conditioned, our minds are conditioned to judge, criticize, compare, condemn, to like or not to like, to want or not to want, to have aversion, hatred and ill will, which include jealousy, resentment, disrespect, and so on. So because of the judgmental mind, we tend not only to judge others, but we judge ourselves. And sometimes we judge ourselves more harshly than we judge others. And so when we make mistakes, we suffer from guilt. And so guilt is really a universal conflict in the mind. Now, it is natural to have regrets. We can all relate to that. But if we keep regretting and feeling guilty for something you did or something you said, we end up torturing ourselves, right? End up torturing ourselves. So this is why when we make mistakes, it's important that we forgive ourselves for being human. Because as human beings, we are not perfect. And everyone makes mistakes. And I know I do. I do make mistakes because I'm human. And you can say that it is perfectly natural to make mistakes. So this is where the practice of loving kindness becomes very beneficial. Because when we do loving kindness meditation, we replace those negative judgmental thoughts with kind, positive thoughts. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. May all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. Because when we suffer from guilt, we also suffer from fear. Because guilt is an aspect of fear. Why is this? Because we tend to create a negative image of ourselves, including, the negative judgmental thoughts. We tend to say, I'm so bad, I'm stupid, I'm so crazy. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Like this. So that having a negative image of yourselves plus the other negative judgmental thoughts, it creates fear. So again, the practice of loving kindness is very, very beneficial. And of course, we try to learn from our mistakes. And a very positive, mature attitude to have is, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? So it's more constructive, instead of just being caught in that negativity, that judgmental attitude. So in this way, we can develop self-compassion and be kinder to ourselves. Okay?
Continue. Good morning, dear brothers, dear sisters, dear friends. We have numbers of questions over here. Eventually, I sort them out into the topic. So basically, those questions, this one we have all related to thinking, and thinking. Why, like this one, how to keep our thinking run inside of your head, how to stop it and keep yourself free from all thinking and worry. And this question is how to not overthinking. I tend to always think too much something, and I would be anxious because of my thoughts. How do you overcome anxiety and how others perceive you? So how do you let go of their expectations but still live a life of service? And this question, how do I truly rest? My mind is always thinking about next thing to do. When I'm not doing something, it feels like a waste of time. Do you have any advice? Thank you. So this question all related together. So I put one topic. So the answer in a monastery, we do practice meditation. That is the only way we can stop, we can reduce, we can help ourselves. Mindful breathing is a technique that helps us how to settle down ourselves. So in this moment, supposed to be here in this meditation hall, even we enter meditation hall, but our mind still think a lot, right? Even the brothers over there, he asks you, okay, now focus on your breath, mindful breathing, okay, listen to the bell.
but your mind is still thinking. So that is the nature of your mind, the nature of human mind. There is no way to stop it. But there is a way to not participate in your thought. Yesterday I asked who you are, who am I? I said, who am I? Do you have answer yet? Not yet. It's okay. So you are everything, basically. You are made up by many different elements. So one most important thing in the Buddhism is mindfulness energy. So in other words, is you can identify yourself with many different identity, with any different way about yourself. But in this particular question, I respond. So you can identify yourself with mindfulness energy. It could help. So you are a recognizer of all the thoughts. Meditation doesn't mean we have to destroy all kind of thoughts in yourself. You can't. You cannot do it. It is the nature. So we just recognize is present in your mind. That's it. And do not follow the thought. That's it. So you are a experiencer, and the thought is something experiencing. In other words, so you try to separate. Okay, you identify yourself with the energy of mindfulness. Mindfulness means the ability to know what is going on in this moment. You are not belong to the past. You are not belong to the future. You are now to know things. So once we identify ourselves with the ability of recognizing, then you are safe. So do not run after it. When the thought comes in, you know, there is a thought. And breathe in and breathe out, let it go. Do not just chase in the shadow of that thought at all. Remind it. Because mindfulness has a functions of memory. Mindfulness means attention. Mindfulness means awareness. Mindfulness means acceptance. Accepting whatever happening. No judge, no follow, no do nothing. In other words. So that is the way. So when you love yourself, just do like that. And stop completely following your thoughts by following your breath. So you have a choice. You have a freedom. Whether you follow the thoughts or you follow your breath is your choice. So you know all the thoughts makes you crazy, but we just follow it anyway because the habit. We have a habit energy. We have the tendency to follow the thought, whatever has come, because human beings have a very strong sense of wondering. If something happened, what is this? The curiosity will make us to follow and follow. Try to explore. But when you try to explore at so many things at the same time, and you lose the concentration, you lose the focus, you lose the attention. So, mindfulness of what? So your thought could be a subject of my meditation, could be subject of meditation. Your stress in your life could be a subject of meditation. For example, when you stress, and you realize that you stress tension somewhere else, in shoulder or in your chest, in your face, your temperature, or somewhere else in your body. You really, or some feel, the cortisol level come up so much, and you feel shaking, and you realize that now it's time to sit down. If we practice every day, And we have the habit of stop, pause yourself, and then we stop. And realize, pay attention, you're breathing in. I know I have a stress. I'm breathing out, I smile, I relax. Just pay attention. It is in your house. For example, a thief come to your house. Do nothing. Just pay attention to watch him. Whatever he does, just follow him. That's it. Do nothing. Do not fight with him. He'll kill you. He overcome. I mean, he will destroy you anytime because the thought super strong, and sometimes draw us, away from the reality, draw us to the past, draw us in the future, no matter what. So it is the nature. So like a thief come to your house, it's like the stranger come to your property. Do nothing. Just watch and observe, because you are a boss. You are the owner. Eventually, the stranger come to your house. Eventually, it's go away. The stranger goes away by its nature. So, in conclusion, to dealing with the thinking, with the stress, with any particular experience that come to us, especially unpleasant feeling, remember, go back to your own breath. You are here. You are the breath. You are the energy of awareness. You are the energy of knowing. You are the experiencer. You are the owner of yourself, your mind. Do not follow the guest. Your thoughts, your stress, your whatever subject from the outside, that is your guest. They are your guests, and you are the owner. And you are the host. Just watch and see it. That's it. And do not interfere. Just accept at it. So remember 3A: awareness, attention, and acceptance. That is the three components in mindfulness can help us to do it. So no judgment, no criticize, accept at it, and observe mindfully, gently, and to be with it. And eventually it's gone, because something come and go. Yesterday you are anybody cried, right? Where does that come from? And now you can smile. No more crying, right? So the crying, some kind of emotion in our heart, is come and it's go. Anger, stress, sadness, happiness, joy, whatever emotion come and go. Like our guests come to your house, play with you a while, right? And go. It's like that. So just be there, be a witness, and watch what is come and go. But you are the experiencer. When the brother invite the bell, bong, you hear it? You hear it? And now, how about now? You don't. But what is the ability to help you to realize there is a bell and there is not a bell? Because the ability of knowing. To realize that now is no more sound with the bell. Right? So even being or non-being, that is not a matter. William Shakespeare say, being or non-being, that is the matter. That is the problem. But being and non-being, not a matter. The matter is we know when it's being and when it's non-being. So that is the point of meditation. So meditation helps us. So come to your breath mindfully. That is the key. That is the only anchor to anchor your boat floating on the ocean of the thought. Your boat floating and float on the stream of feeling, emotion, and the ocean of thoughts, one after one. So, be mindful and be smartful. be very attentive. Come back to your breath and do it seriously, and could help you. So, to do prevention, intervention steps, that means we do it now. Do not wait until we overwhelm with the thought, and then now, oh my God, I have to do meditation. Too late. Do it now. Right now, we're still healthy. We're still very energized, and we have still a lot of, awake awareness. We have a lot of freshness in your mind, your eyes, in your life. Do meditation. Make it become your habit. And from the habit comes your character. You become your destiny with mindfulness. Identify yourself with mindfulness. It could help.
I'd just like to add something to that. Because sometimes it's not easy to focus on the breath, right? Especially if you're in a very busy, stressful situation. Or sometimes unexpectedly something happens. So one of the things that I practice myself, and I advise people, including medical people, doctors and nurses, because hospitals can get pretty crazy. I've done volunteer work in emergency department, so I really know what it's like. And I found what we did yesterday. You remember the balancing Qigong? This one, breathing in, breathing out. You remember this one? Because when you do that, and I really recommend that you do this on a regular basis, so then it feels natural. And the wonderful thing, it's right there in front of you, right? Your hands. That I found that when you breathe and move at the same time, it's a very easy way to focus. Just breathing and moving. Because it brings you immediately in the present moment. Especially when things are crazy around you. And of course, you have no time to be quiet. Just breathing in, breathing out. And you can do this while sitting down also. I remember once somebody in Ottawa came to the meditation class, and he was the reactive type, always reacting. So he was always getting upset at work, either from just general stress, or just conflict with co-workers, or with his boss, of course. So I showed him these practices, just a simple breathing and moving, smiling. I showed him the dynamic hand movements. I said, if you just have a few minutes sitting at your desk, you can do the moving meditation. And if you're really angry, really frustrated, you find an empty room, and if you can't find an empty room, go to the washroom, or you can go in the stairway. The stairway, because stairways are usually quiet, empty most of the time. And do that Qigong we did yesterday, the one where you breathe and you open, and you just go, ah, and you smile. And he really did it, and he said it helped him a lot, helped him a great deal. And he said, even my wife could tell the difference, and she would know, right? She would know of his reactive behavior. That's right. So this practice is really good. And when you practice it, it also stops your thinking. You automatically let go of thinking, because the focus is so immediate. So although it looks simple, but actually it's very powerful when you practice it. How to relieve stress from work. I just mentioned that. So there are different ways. And also when we do this practice and we smile, it prevents us from reacting to somebody's unpleasant behavior. You know, they're trying to give you a hard time or they're criticizing you. Instead of reacting, just do this and you smile. And you ignore that person. You ignore that person. And believe me, that person who's trying to give you a hard time would be very puzzled and confused. Like, what the hell are you doing? Because they're expecting you to react and get angry or upset. But if you can just breathe, move and smile, no problem. Because in the end, as what the Buddha said, it is our reaction that really is what creates our own mental, emotional suffering. And he gave that very radical advice. When you see, just see. When you hear, just hear. That's right. So you can see the value of mindfulness, some form of mindfulness, that helps us to prevent from this habitual reactive pattern, you know, that we're all conditioned with.
Okay. So we move on other topics that we have over here. That is the stress of life. Stress of life. That is another question. How do I get over a painful memory from the past? So this is the same thing that I has mentioned. That, you know, we practice mindful breathing. That is the only technique that can help us to be in the present moment. And then, of course, you are not just only the past. How many me do you have? So you are not just only the past. Remember, and our life just exists in the present moment, in this moment. And no one can promise us that we can continue to live until tomorrow. We don't know. So the moment, in this moment, that is very important. So that's why we practice mindful breathing. So mindful walking, mindful eating, mindful talking. Live truthfully in the present moment, life right now. Then you overcome easily. You are such as a TV. You turn on the channel of the past, then you just watch all the movie in the past. You turn on the channel, a present moment channel, and now you just watch the present moment only. So you are free to choose your life. So you know that the past painfully could consume all our time, our energy. So just realize that the past, go to your memory, the memory of your past, just jump in your head, jump in your mind. It's jumping and going. So the nature of all that thoughts, memory, all kind of information that you have, the nature is coming and going. The nature of all phenomena is coming and going. But our mindfulness, our awareness is always there to observe, to realize what is going on in your mind, in your life. So practicing mindfulness, mindful breathing, mindful walking, that helps us to dwell yourself in the present moment. In the present moment, our life only exists in the present moment. Our life does not exist in the past or in the future. Right now. So when you develop your meditation very deep enough, You may bring up the past to be here in the present moment, to observe, to look deeply, to figure out how come it's like that, with the fresh mode of mindfulness, with the truly present in the present moment, and not just overwhelmed, run to the past and to be craving, to be crazy, to be angry over there. So just generate a new habit, the habit of to be in the present moment. Make it become your habit. Mindfulness is a habit. Is a character of yourself as if we practice it and generate it. It helps us a lot. So mindful breathing, that is important. Therefore, as I excerpt a sentence from the sutra that the Buddha he said, this is the only way. Ekayana. This is the only way to help ourselves, to purify ourselves, to overcome all of us sorrow, suffering, to achieve nirvana, to achieve enlightenment. The way of mindful breathing, the way of nurture the energy of mindfulness in the present moment. So when you have that enough in your heart, energy of mindfulness in your heart, so you eventually your wisdom will come. You know what to do by yourself. You don't have to follow any particular individual, model or idol anyway. Do yourself. You know. So when you have mindfulness, you have concentration, wisdom will come, and wisdom will be reflected in your action, in your speech, and in your thoughts. Wholesome and unwholesome thoughts, we know which way we will select. So you have yourself. So trust yourself, trust your mindful breathing. Take your breath, because your breath is your life. You lose your breath, lose your life. No, your breath is not in the past. Your breath is not in the future. You cannot say, wait a minute, wait for me a few minutes, a few seconds, a few days. I will breathe mindfully in the future. No. So waiting is a state of mind. Letting go, the waiting mode in your mind. Be now. So life is now or never. Master.
Here's an interesting reflection about somebody being angry at you. Because when people get angry with me, I always find a good opportunity to practice the non-reaction. When you see, just see. When you hear, just hear. When somebody gets angry with you, for whatever reason, of course, usually we tense up, all right? And we get into kind of defensive mode. Now, with mindfulness, if you can focus on the breath, and just keep calm and not react to that person's anger. And as I said, if you can't focus on the breath, just breathe and move at the same time. Just focus and smile. Then you begin to see, because you're not reacting, you see that that person is suffering. They're having stress. And behind that anger is always fear. Always. Even when certain monks get angry with me, I can see the fear. And you're wondering, how come monks get angry? Because they're human. And they also have mental defilements, and they also have mental delusions. But they're just not practicing mindfulness. You know, they do the chanting, the ceremonies, and so on, but they're not really practicing the mindfulness and learning how not to react to things. So when we see that that person is suffering because you're not reacting, then compassion can arise. Because if you also get angry at that person, then you cannot see that that person has compassion, because then both of you are suffering, right? Both of you have this anger energy. But if you can keep calm, focused, then you can see that person is suffering and compassion can arise. And when compassion arises, you naturally want to improve the situation. And one way is to say, I'm really sorry that you're upset. I'm really sorry that you're angry. Please tell me what I did or what I said to make you angry. Because maybe you did say something to make that person angry, but you're just not aware of it. And very often it's a misunderstanding also. All right? Because misunderstandings happen all the time in human relationship. It's so easy to misunderstand somebody, misinterpret what somebody has said. So you try to improve the situation. If it's your fault, if you're to be blamed, then a mature way is to say, I'm very sorry, please forgive me. Because I know for some people it's not easy to say, I'm very sorry, please forgive me. For some people it's very difficult because of pride, because of ego pride. And of course behind that ego pride is always fear and insecurity. And if you're without blame, then you make an effort to clear up the misunderstanding. Because as I said, very often it has to do with misunderstanding, misinterpretation. And when you do make the effort to clear up that misunderstanding, then naturally both parties feel much better, more positive, and so on. So that's one way of dealing, with a very angry person. Yeah. And maybe if the person is inclined, you can show them that qigong we did. That qigong. You can do it together. You can show them as a way of releasing anger, frustration, and just basic stress, just general stress, like this. Yeah. And there's this question. When I do long amounts of work, I notice my body is stressed afterwards. Quick heartbeat, tension, and tiredness. Sometimes it happens when I'm doing regular activities too. Yeah. How do I transform that stressful, tense energy into a more peaceful one, and or find ways to prevent that stress from reoccurring so often? Maybe you can guess what I'll say about this. Qigong. Simple Qigong movements. Right? All you have to do, if you don't know the movements or you don't remember them, watch the video. It's always there. And they're very simple. And the more you do it, you begin to see how beneficial they are. They're very simple, but very powerful. And what amazes me in my own experience, sometimes you're just not in a good mood, you're just feeling moody, your energy is very low, sometimes negative. But when I do a few Qigong movements, it immediately changes my energy level. and I feel 100% better. And sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes I feel 200% better. So it's really incredible stuff. And it's a form of healing, a form of shamanic healing. We call shamanic healing, but of course from the ancient Chinese tradition. Yeah. And of course, there's also yoga if you're inclined. And if you've never done yoga, you can always take yoga classes. Yeah. And try to do the traditional yoga, the slow, mindful yoga. And I say that because the Americans have come up with all the, workout yoga, hot yoga, this yoga, that yoga, like aerobics, aerobics yoga. Because a lot of Americans now don't like anything that's very slow. If it's not a, intense workout, it's not good for them. Because, they get bored very easily, like this, yeah. And for some people, of course, they do running, say after work, after a very stressful day of work, people do running, jogging, and then they do some mindful practice. But you can do any physical activity that you like, even rollerblading or swimming. Of course, swimming is always a good form of exercise. And you find after swimming, just sitting quietly, do mindful breathing. That can be very, very beneficial. And of course, you can always use music also, using music in the background. Anything that you find soothing, calming, and of course, also chanting, anything that you like to listen to.
So do we have any live questions? Instead of to do all of these questions already here. Đằng kia. Ở dưới kia. Tại cô này. Rồi con nó muốn nói tiếng Việt, nói tiếng Anh.
Yeah. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Con kính bạch trên thầy, cùng quý sư cô, cùng các bạn đồng tu ở đây. Nãy giờ con không hiểu tiếng Anh cho lắm nên nãy giờ ngồi con hơi buồn ngủ. Con xin lỗi quý thầy. Yeah. Thì con xin có câu hỏi dành cho sư thầy rằng là làm cách nào để khi mà ngồi nghe pháp thì chúng con đỡ buồn ngủ đi hẳn. Dạ. Vậy lại là thêm một câu hỏi nhỏ kèm theo nữa là làm cách nào để cho tụi con nhận diện được giây phút hiện tại. Dạ. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Kính mong quý thầy hoan hỷ giải đáp cho chúng con. Dạ.
And the other question was
Do some qigong.
and how can he feel present moment?
Yes. I forgot to mention another easy way, which I shared with you before, of focusing the mind, apart from this one, is the Gate chanting. It's really good when you get into it because it's short, it's easy to focus the mind, and you can let go of disturbing thoughts. That is the wonderful thing about mindful chanting. Because, so many crazy thoughts can enter the mind. Obsessive thoughts, regretful thoughts, guilty thoughts, anxious thoughts, so many frustrating thoughts and so on. So many. But when we just chant, Gate, Gate, Para, Gate, Parasam, Gate, Bodhisvaha, you just let go. You let go of all those disturbing thoughts. And one of the first teachings I got in India from a Hindu sadhu, like a monk, and his English was very limited, but he said this to me, and he shook his head in the Indian fashion, No think, no problem. No think, no problem. But you can modify that, because sometimes we need to think, is less thinking, more mindfulness, less problem. Oh, I just one thing here about anger. As I mentioned before, at least to some of the Dhamma sharing group, is that we have the habit of identifying, not only with the body, but our feelings and our emotions, right? A happy feeling arises, we say, I am happy, perfectly natural. Unhappy feeling arises, I am unhappy. Or I'm upset, I'm bored, I'm lonely, I'm frustrated, I'm afraid, and so on. We have that habit. And initially when we say, I am happy, there's no suffering. Why is that? Because it's pleasant, isn't it? But when we say, I am unhappy, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm lonely, I'm afraid, and so on, there is suffering. Simply because these are unpleasant mental states. You see the difference? And when we have this habit of identifying with feelings and emotions, we tend to hold on to them as something personal, right? My happiness or my unhappiness. My anger, my frustration, my worries, my fear, and so on. And what the Dhamma is teaching us is that these emotions do not belong to us. Just like this body does not belong to us. The body belongs to the changing conditions of nature. So in mindfulness practice, it gives us the ability, one of the miracles of mindfulness, it gives us the ability to see things objectively, see things as they are. Instead of saying, I am angry, you say, breathe mindfully, and you say, there is anger. Or there's a state of anger. You see the difference. There's a big difference in saying, I am angry, and there is anger, right? You have that space, that objectivity. Yes, there is anger, there's fear, there's frustration, but you see it as it is. There is frustration, there is fear, there is upset, there is boredom, not I am bored. That was a very important teaching in the Dhamma. And then we say, this too shall pass. It's impermanent. It's a temporary mental state, a changing condition of the mind. Because what is interesting, when we identify with anger, for example, I am angry, and then you say, of course, I am an angry person. And then you create conflict around that identity. Oh, this is terrible. I shouldn't be angry, I'm such a bad Buddhist, or I'm a bad meditator, or I'm a bad Christian, or whoever I think I am. Now I'll never become an arahant, I'll never become bodhisattva, or I'll never become enlightened. You see that? The conflict that we create around that identity. So that is the great freedom of seeing anger as just anger. seeing fear as just fear, and know it is impermanent. Of course, because anger is such a strong emotion and very illogical, it's not easy to sit with anger, right? And this is where something like Qigong is very useful, something physical that you can breathe and you can release the energy of anger. And if you like running, you can go running also. Anything that you like to do, anything that's physical. So you can dissipate the strong energy of anger. And as you know, anger is a very illogical emotion. Because you find, say, if you're angry with even your best friend, or a family member, or your spouse, when you're angry, you forget all the good qualities of that person. Have you noticed that? And you forget all the good things, all the happy memories that you've had with that person. That is the nature of anger. And sometimes, when you're really angry with somebody and another friend comes and says, why are you so angry with your friend? It's a good friend. You also get angry at that person. You understand? Because that other friend is not supporting your anger. It happens sometimes. I've seen this happen. Because it's such a strong, illogical emotion. Such a strong, illogical emotion. So that's why it's good to have these skills. You objectify the anger, know it is impermanent, do something physical, and you release that strong, illogical, irrational energy of anger. Similarly with fear. Instead of I'm afraid, I'm scared, there is fear, or there's a state of fear. It is impermanent. This too shall pass. And then you do some loving kindness meditation, something that's very positive. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be free from fear, conflict, and delusion. And then if you like, you can do some gati chanting, or whatever you like to do. Or you can go into the nature and just enjoy the energy, just the energy of the natural environment.
Any question over here? Yeah, please. So how to forgive people? How to forgive people? How to forgive people?
First, when we learn how to forgive ourselves, then it's easier to forgive others. But part of it, again, is instead of being judgmental, which we tend to do because we're conditioned that way, keep calm, be mindful, and then you realize that person is also like me. I'm not perfect, that person is not perfect. They also have their issues, their mental defilements. And when we understand that mutual understanding comes compassion. Then it's easier to forgive someone. But I know sometimes it's not easy when you're really angry, right? When you're really angry, yeah. So this is why you have to take care of your anger first and transform it. Then we can forgive the other person with compassion, with loving kindness and compassion. Because, that person is really no different from myself. That's right, yeah. How do you overcome anxiety about how others perceive you? That's actually a good question. Because one of the fears we have is the fear of public opinion, right? Fear of what others are saying about us or even thinking about us. And let's be honest, you can't stop people from talking and you cannot stop people from thinking. So why do we have this fear? Why are we so worried about what others are thinking about us? Because again, the human mind, we have this thing called memory, and we tend to create images of ourselves, and we have images of the other people. Have you noticed, if you have a very pleasant relationship with somebody, you naturally have a pleasant image of that person, don't you? Every time you think about the person, it's always pleasant, right? Because it's related to memory. Now, if you've had some conflict, some problem with the same person or the same friend, what happens? We create a negative image of that person, and most likely that person will create that negative image of you also. Because that's just the way the mind works, based on memory. Now, so the big question is, and every time you think about that friend, you see them with that negative image, that conflict. And the next time you see that person, even it could be a week, a few days, even 2, 3 weeks, a month later, whenever you see that person, you still see them with that negative image that your mind has created. Because we have this thing called memory. So in other words, you're seeing them with the image of the past. You're not seeing them as they are in the present moment. You're still clinging to that negative image because of that conflict. Do you see that? That's the way our minds are. Because of memory. Because thinking is related to memory. And the only way we can remove that negative image so we can see that person as they are in the present moment is through awareness, mindfulness, and through loving kindness, right? Sending positive thoughts and positive feelings. Then we can remove that negative image. And when it comes to this fear, our own fear of public opinion, what people think or say about us, it has to do with the image that we create ourselves. And you're always trying to protect that image, even if it's positive. Of course, it's better to have a positive image than a negative image. But even if you have a positive image, that image you will try to protect. And that's why you're concerned about what others say or think about you. The fear of public opinion. So the question is it possible not to have an image of yourself? Just reflect on that. Is it possible not to have an image of yourself? It is possible, and that means just to be aware, to be mindful. Because when you're mindful, you're aware, there's no need to create an image. So the image is created by thoughts and memory, right? Thoughts and memory. So when you don't have an image, then naturally you're not afraid of that image getting hurt. You don't have to protect that image. So as the Indian man says, No thing, no problem. No image, no problem. You see what I mean? Yeah. So in other words, people can think and say whatever they want, no problem, because your mind is free of that image. Yeah. It's a very, very beneficial teaching. Yeah. And just rest in awareness, our true nature, our Buddha nature, awareness and knowing. Present moment, wonderful moment. The unconditioned state of being.
So dear Venerable Dharma teachers, dear noble community, we wish we could go much more longer, but unfortunately due to the time we have, we're unable to continue on our question and answer session for today. I know there's still a lot of questions left for the Dharma teachers to answer, but those questions will be left for the next retreat and for the next future question and answer session. And so we'd like to thank our Dharma teachers for being present for this morning's session, as well for our friends for offering your live questions and also being present with us. And so let's come back to our breathing as we end our session today. And afterwards there'll be further more announcements to be made.
Dear community, we have many questions over here. This question, I believe, some Vietnamese friend. That is very important question, but I will answer privately or because we don't have time enough. So that is very beautiful question. And I say most important question, but I would like to give the view from my point of view for this question. So I received from brother. So who wrote this one? Oh, you don't know. Okay. So the question is, as a member of Vietnamese community, we share beautiful traditions. At the same time, we share a lot of difficulties in the past, history, ancestor. So Vietnam endured a lot of suffering from colonization, from Chinese, French, or over 20 years Vietnam War or whatever. However, all the turmoil is a big part of our life, and then we have to fled the homeland and settling in the West. So why we do that, and why we don't stay in Vietnam to keep the country, something like that. This is a very beautiful question. I would answer, but I would like to address, but we don't have a lot of time right now. So
dear friends, if your question was not answered today, you can also, in your Dharma sharing time, you can also ask those questions in your Dharma sharing family. And I believe that many of our brothers and sisters and the monastics will also offer their insight to your question.
And if the person who wrote that question, if they can remember, and if they're here, maybe they can meet Thai, say maybe this evening or something like this, because there will be some free time in the evening. Yes. Yeah. So I just remember there's a short break before the Qigong, and to prepare, you can just put the cushions to the side, only the cushions, and the padded mats can go to the back. Like yesterday, yes.
So let's listen to 3 sounds of the bell before we end our session today. Dear friends, please release and massage your legs. So just announcements for after this. So Brother Bhante Kovida will be offering a Qigong